Your old or broken phone can let you down when you need it most.
Perfect.
But at Verizon, trade in any old phone from our top brands and get the most for it, up to $2,000 in value, for an amazing new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence and a new line on My Plan, and iPad and Apple Watch Series 10. That's like a 3-for-1. And you can get it on any plan. At Verizon, trade in your old phone for a brand new iPhone 16 Pro, iPad, and Apple Watch. The other guys won't give you that. Visit Verizon.com today. Additional terms apply. Service plan required for Apple Watch and iPad. Up to $2,000 value based on iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch.
Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Josh All here with you, and Kenny Mack from the Great White. Woo! Very cold north today. Isn't that right, Kenny?
Yeah, it's minus 30 not Fahrenheit, Celsius up here. I was explaining the difference between the two because I always got to think back and forth. Yeah, it's cold, guys, and I got the fireplace on right now, so let's warm this podcast up.
Let's do it because, I mean, we were saying cold is cold. I mean, once it kind of gets down into those single digits, it doesn't really matter if it's in the positive singles or the negatives. It's cold. It's just cold is cold.
Damn cold.
That's right. But what's hopefully not too cold will be this episode for you guys. We are going to deliver our top 6 free agents for the Cleveland Browns to sign, with free agency coming up here real soon. This month, actually, here just in a couple weeks. So we wanted to break this down, give you guys a few names to be looking ahead at as things are ramping up. I know, the combine just wrapped up. There's been so much talk with rookies and the NFL draft and everything that free agency is getting swept a little under the rug, and there might be a reason for that in the Browns realm anyway, because I saw some rumors where Browns are not expected to be heavy hitters in free agency this year. So we'll kind of take that into consideration as well. But that's what we're going to be doing on this episode. Before we dive into it, make sure you guys like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and please tap the notification bell. We had to postpone our 500 episode celebration live stream yet again. So I mentioned that on the episode the other day. So if you guys tap that notification bell, you'll get notified when we do reschedule that. And hopefully the third time's the charm. We can actually pull this one off this time. So that's all good. Make sure you guys follow us on all the social medias and head over to jointhedogs.com if you want to become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page. Join the private Discord, get in there, talk to us, the host, Kenny, everybody else that's in the Dog Pack. It is a ton of fun. Great group of diehard Browns fans. And the conversations right now are awesome because it's just all speculation about these draft prospects and, names that we're not familiar with that other people are because they're from around the country. And it's like, hey, I follow this college team and you guys are not, you're sleeping on this player and I watched him, and it's good stuff. So head to jointhedogs.com and get in there. So let me kind of go over a couple dates for people to keep in their mind as free agency comes upon us. And then I'm going to break down a little bit of the cap situation for the Browns heading into this before we dive into our players. So the first date for everybody to understand here, Tuesday, March 4th, which is this week. That's the deadline for teams to franchise or transition tag their players. So a guy like T. Higgins, that information will come out this week, whether or not these players are actually getting franchise tagged. And then Monday, March 10th is when the legal tampering period begins. So the following Monday, and then Wednesday, March 12th is when the league year finally opens and teams can actually start signing or making it official that they've signed their free agents. So that's when everything's really going to kick off. For the Browns, in terms of the cap, Kenny, I don't know. I didn't know all these numbers, so I went through and did this. So this might be, maybe you already knew some of this, but the Browns currently have the second most active roster cap, so the second highest at $299 million. The top 51 cap space is $292, and they have the second most dead cap in the entire league, $52 million this year. $351 million total cap allocation is the highest in the NFL. The NFL cap or salary cap, it has been set at $279.2 million for this 2025 season. Now, the Browns are rolling over $42 million from last season in 2024. That gives us an adjusted cap for the Browns of $321 million this year. The Browns are currently $23 million over that cap. So we have the second highest, or I guess second least cap space in the entire league. So I was looking because obviously the Browns are not going to go into free agency and sign anybody, being $23 million over the cap. And that's all going to get taken care of in some way, shape, or form. Andrew Berry, he's a cap magician. And I still think he's, whether we agree with the draft picks and some of these other moves that he's made over his time here, it'd be tough to argue that he's not a very good salary cap manager, the way he does things. So I was just looking through to see where could some of these savings come from to get us back under the cap. So Jack Conklin was the first one that came up. He could be a post-June 1st cut or trade. The Browns would save around $11.7 million, or they could restructure him and clear up $9.5 million. Denzel Ward is another one. You could restructure him to clear up $9.2 million. The Browns could elect to trade Greg Newsome. That would save $13.4 million off the book because it's fully guaranteed since they picked up his fifth-year option, so the new team would take all that on. And as always, a Deshaun Watson restructure clears the most space for the team, could clear up to $35.8 million. So those are the main ones that I found. Obviously, there's a bunch of other ones that they could do that are smaller dollar amounts, but those were the main ones. I've seen some people suggesting that Dalvin Tomlinson could potentially get cut, which I looked, only frees up $1.4 million in cap space. So I think I'd rather have him on the team than just try to save a little over $1 million by cutting him. But just with the moves that I mentioned here, the Browns could potentially clear up to 67.9, so we'll call it $68 million in cap space, and that would put them $45 million under the cap.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I've heard that's a little bit different, and this is going to be tough for us to know, is Joel Bitonio.
Right.
So he has the potential to retire. Retire if before June 1st, it's very similar to like cutting a player, right? So we'd be on the hook for most of his salary. What we would need him to do if he does retire is do us a solid, and he could retire after June 1st, which would save us, I believe, I don't have the stats in front of me, I think it's about $8 million.
Oh, okay. Well, that would definitely help if his decision is to retire, which personally, I hope it's not. I love Joel Bitonio, and I still think he's got, gas left in the tank to play that guard position pretty well. And, with most likely a rookie quarterback coming in here, we're going to need that. We're going to need as great of an offensive line as we can put together.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need him. I just thought it was interesting. I mean, in my mind, maybe other people think like this as well, but you think, oh, well, the guy's retired, so nothing, we save that all against the cap. But I thought the interesting fact was that, no, it's just like cutting a guy. It's the exact same regulations. And I thought that was super cool to learn.
Yeah. And then another thing I didn't mention too, there's going to be cap relief from the Deshaun Watson injury insurance applied to this year. And then there's going to be even more applied to the cap next year. We don't know what those final numbers are and everything like that. So that's all going to come, we'll obviously post the news when that drops and all that stuff. But those are just things to keep in mind. So when people are out there on social media saying, the Browns are in salary cap hell, they can't sign anybody, they can't field a team, blah, 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 they're going to make moves to make sure that they can do it. But this does speak to the rumors coming out of and the vibes coming out of the combine was don't expect the Browns to be heavy hitters in free agency because we will have cap space, but not a ton to go out and, spend enormous amounts on the top guys in free agency, which I guess another thing I want to mention before we dive into these players, I was reading some stuff and, over the years, I've mentioned that the wide receivers in free agency are usually pretty limited. Like there's not a lot of top end talent at the wide receiver position because the best wide receivers in the NFL either get extended by their teams or traded. Those guys do not hit free agency. I mean, look, even like T. Higgins was going to be the belle of the ball this year at wide receiver. And the Bengals are like, no, we're not letting him hit free agency. We're going to at least franchise tag him and then see what we can do with him, either extend him or trade him. So these guys don't hit the market. And what I've been hearing now is with the salary cap going up, more and more NFL teams are getting more savvy with the salary cap, like the Browns have been, like Andrew Berry in the front office. And they're finding ways to spread out these cap hits so that they can sign more of their top end players and keep them on the roster. And by doing that, fewer top end talents are hitting the free agent market. So free agency is not going to be what it used to be moving forward, is what I've been hearing. Like you're not going to see some of these big names out there at different positions. It's going to be kind of second tier talented players.
That was one of the big things for my criteria, because I mean, I didn't want to pick a guy. We'd be in free agency, like we're doing this podcast, and all three of them get franchise tagged, right?
Right.
I mean, that was one of the biggest things. And we've been trying to meet up and try and do this. Both of us have had to reschedule or redo the guys that we thought might get the Browns might pick, right? The other things that I looked at is I took a look at the presser points from the end of the year presser with Andrew Barry. His biggest things are leadership, toughness, a fast processor of information, so making good decisions, and versatility. The other thing in the free agent market, and I think most guys would think this way, is you don't want to draft positions that have a logjam of talent. So you can tell me if you agree with this, but defensive line, tight ends, and running back are deep this year in the draft. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably not going to sign those guys. And I say probably for a reason, because you'll find out. The other thing is there is an urgency for winning, right? So do you really want to pin this season, like Stefanski and Barry, on positions that are tough to develop? And those positions would be quarterback. I'll put a caveat on quarterback too. I didn't pick a quarterback in my guys because quarterback, the guys that I want aren't cut yet, and so it's kind of convoluted, so I stayed away from the quarterback position. Left tackle is a tough one too, because you can throw a rookie out there and the first year their heads might spin. Safety is a tough one, and then tight end's a tough one to develop as well. So that was kind of my basis, and I did kind of take in the 2020 season because that was Stefanski's legit real go at offense for the first time as a head coach, and those were my specifications, I guess you can say.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, just spoiler alert, I've got 0 running backs as well, because if it were me, I wouldn't sign any running backs in free agency. Why spend the money on an older running back in free agency when the top end talent, like I said, even at running back in free agency, is not there this year. And this draft is so loaded. I'd be drafting 2 running backs in this draft for sure, and just going that direction. And then maybe there's going to be running backs in this draft that go undrafted who are good talents. So that's what I would be doing, just stocking up on these young players. And then obviously, if you need to fill out the room with, like they've been doing with, Pierre Strong or whoever else they need to just add, they can do that later. But this first wave of free agency, I don't expect any running backs for sure for the Browns. But, you mentioned too, I guess speaking to the guys not hitting free agent markets, getting extended by their teams. The one guy that you were going to do for this episode at the tackle position, you couldn't do because he was Alaric Jackson, right? From the Los Angeles Rams, just got extended over the weekend, found out they're keeping him. He's staying on board. So you had to pivot. The reason why I picked him, we can just get into it quickly. He's only 26. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize he was from Canada. He's actually from Windsor, Ontario. He was born there, but he played in the Detroit school system. He was 6'7", 345 pounds. And when I read that, you can't teach that. I was like, wow. And that guy played with Sean McVay. He's part of the zone blocking scheme that we covet. I'm like, sign me up all day long. But as you said, he's not going to be part of the team because they value him as well. They do. So you had to pivot and do a different tackle. So why don't you kick things off for this episode with our top 6 free agents and deliver us the first one?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely need offensive line depth. And part of Stefanski's offense, we need strong offensive line play and zone blocking. So couldn't get Alaric Jackson, unfortunately, but there's another guy on that team, and that was Joseph Noteboom. And he's 29 years old. He's an offensive tackle, obviously, for the Rams, but he played a bunch of positions for them. Tons of experience from TCU. The guy started 40 consecutive games there, so he had a ton of durability and a ton of resiliency to get through the season. He was drafted 89th overall and started off just as O-line depth in 2018 for the Rams. And then he just moved on, started at left guard in 2019, only got 6 starts because he had some injuries. Then he returned as the left guard in 2020, played 10 games, but had a little bit more injury issues. And then we know what happened in 2021. He's a Super Bowl champion. But in the 2022 season, still good enough with the injuries to earn a 3-year, $40 million contract. and then played in multiple positions, multiple games, started for Andrew Whitworth for a little bit while he was injured. So really, really versatile, played multiple positions along the offensive line. The only thing is, I know you're going to say, what about the injuries, right? But he fits what I said that the Cleveland Browns are looking for. Okay, first up is versatility. So he played both tackle positions and he played the guard position that I mentioned. And so that would allow a lot of flexibility, because at the end of the day, we are losing a ton of depth in free agency. We're losing like about 9 guys right now off the offensive line. You can specifically think of Michael Dunn. And I think he would actually be an upgrade over him. The guy's played all over the line, and that's what we need.
Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, he's just the leadership's next. I mean, he's got a ton. When you play that many positions, I mean, obviously you're going to get a lot of leadership qualities because you can tell the younger guys what to do. And he's been known for mentoring the younger linemen. And I guarantee you, with 11 picks, there might be 1, there might be 2, a rookie free agent that we find that he's going to help mentor, being a pivotal position piece on that offensive line, playing multiple lines and understanding that zone scheme. Next up is toughness. Clearly, by what I'm saying, guys, he's played through injuries and he's had some big injuries. He's come back through the season after some big injuries. So he's tough. His adaptability to different roles, again, that's underlies his toughness, but we just went over that. He's very, very versatile, can go play many positions on the offensive line. Decision-making, again, if you got to play more than one position, your decision-making has got to be good. You're out there, you're starting, you're playing NFL-level talent football, and if you can recognize where the linemen are or your defensive line are on different sides of the offensive or different positions on the offensive field, offensive line, I think you're a great decision-maker, and you're quickly making adjustments. Adapting to new systems, basically, he's run the same thing. So just come over here, help us out on the offensive line. And overall, what I'm getting at, I think he's great. He's a great part to have on the offensive line. His leadership, he just steps up through injuries and he'll mentor young guys. Toughness, will play through the injuries, played multiple positions, and he's versatile, like I mentioned, through that toughness. And his decision-making, again, adapts quickly to schemes, providing solid protection, critical moments. So our cap situation dictates he's probably going to be affordable. He's probably going to be there. He has the attributes that we're looking for. So let's get him in. Let's get him with these young offensive linemen, and let's back up that offensive line that we have, because we really don't know with Dwan Jones, Jack Conklin. We've had so much injuries over the last couple of years. Let's have a guy that's got starting worthy reps in the NFL.
Yeah, this guy, Noteboom, would be the perfect guy to come in here if they truly do intend to have Dwan Jones start at left tackle, because like you said, He can come in, play that swing tackle position, be the backup. He can even fill in at guard and stuff if we need to, and he would be affordable. I'm looking at Spotrac to get their market values and everything for all this. So if you guys are interested, that's where I'm getting the information. But they got him projected at a 1 year, $1.9 million salary or contract is kind of what they're valuing him based on some of the similar contracts signed over the last year or two, players comparable to him. So he would be, definitely fit the cap situation, definitely fit the positional need, the backup offensive line depth, which is I'm glad you did him, because it is the opposite of the guy that I did for the offensive line. So my first guy, offensive line, offensive tackle, Cam Robinson, recently played for the Minnesota Vikings last year, 6'6", 335 pounds. He is 29 years old. Let's see. Robinson was an early second-round pick out of Alabama by the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2017. He played his entire rookie deal in Jacksonville. Then they franchise tagged him twice, and then ultimately traded him to Minnesota last year after Minnesota starter Christian Darrisaw got injured. So they traded Robinson over to be the starting left tackle for the Vikings. He was named the starting left tackle when he was a rookie. He's played 101 career games, and he started every game that he's ever played. He's dealt with some injuries, missed most of his sophomore season with torn ACL, season-ending meniscus in 2022. 101 games over 8 seasons averages out to just under 13 games a season, but going through his game logs, he's played 14 or more games in 6 out of his 8 seasons. So really, it was just those 2 injured seasons that really hurt him in terms of missing time. But one thing that I found that I really like about Cam Robinson is he is not often penalized. He has just 10 holding penalties his entire career, including 4 seasons with 0 holding penalties, and that's 8,100 career snaps and only 10 holding penalties. So that was something I really like. That's that attention to detail, the focus, and that's been a problem for the Browns is the penalties on that offensive line. Yeah, so Robinson's not likely to go back to the Vikings. They traded for him after they lost Darrisaw last year. So Darrisaw will be back here in 2025. Don't see them paying what Spotrac has for him just to be a backup for them. At 29, he's going to turn 30 during the season. I would imagine the Browns would be more in the market for like a 2-year deal if they decide to go Robinson's route, because they would be signing him to be the starter at left tackle while Jones plays that swing tackle and continues to develop into hopefully a solid starter over those 2 years. But it would allow the Browns to focus more on, getting a developmental tackle in the draft, maybe with their 3rd or 4th round pick, something like that, to pair up with DeJuan Jones behind Robinson, who would slot into that starting left tackle. Spotrac, he's projected for a 3-year deal worth around $14 million a year. So that might be outside of what the Browns' price range will allow them to do. But like I said, if they're gung-ho and confident on signing him to be the starting left tackle, it might be a price they're willing to pay.
Yeah, I mean, I like that pick. I mean, it's ultimately why I wanted to get Alric Jackson. And it's like you were saying, like you would start Jackson and you would have DeJuan Jones as your swing tackle. But based on the situation, I pivoted to another way to go, and that would be having DeJuan Jones start and have Notebloom as the backup. So we'll see what happens with DeJuan. Hopefully he stays healthy for a full year this year.
This episode is sponsored by Butcher Box for Pets. Browns fans, it's about time the dogs offered you something for the real dogs in your life. Our furry friends aren't just pets, they're part of the family. And you wouldn't let yourself or your children eat strange meat from questionable sources, and your dog shouldn't either. Right now, head to butcherboxforpets.com/dogs or use promo code DOGS, DAWGS, to get 20% off your entire order. At ButcherBox, they believe in real ingredients. Their pet foods have been developed and certified by a vet nutritionist to contain 0 artificial flavors or preservatives. You get protein-packed formula with over 50% of the recipe comprised of third-party certified humane ButcherBox meat, plus functional ingredients like pre- and postbiotics to support your dog's vitality and digestion. And ButcherBox even removes the guesswork for you. Their custom meal plans are perfectly portioned to fit your dog's nutritional needs based on 8 factors, including age, weight, and activity level. I know my home wouldn't be the same without Odie, our 100-pound golden who thinks he's a 10-pound lap dog, and it gives us peace of mind knowing that we're giving him quality food instead of that factory processed garbage from the store. And speaking of the store, no need to add dog food to the shopping list ever again. ButcherBox delivers their high-quality food right to your door on the right feeding schedule for your dog. And you can change, modify, or pause your plan at any time. So head to butcherboxforpets.com/dogs and use promo code DOGS for 20% off your order. It's time for all of us dogs to give all of our dogs the nutrition they deserve. Why don't you kick us off into your second pick for the Browns free agents this year?
Yeah, so my second pick, let's talk about the tight end room. There's only one guy in it. It's David Njoku. And we're leaving the guys behind. That's Jordan Akins, Jeff Swami, and Blake Whiteheart. Yeah, and Blake Whiteheart I've seen on our practice squad team, but that doesn't help us for the regular season. The other thing is I just think we're going to get 4 tight ends again like we did in 2020. It's another mid-tier guy that I'm going to pick, and it's Tyler Conklin. He's the tight end last 2 years starter for the Jets. He's 29. He's 6'3", about 250 pounds. And there's 2 words that can describe him. He's determined and he's adaptable. He was actually drafted when Stefanski was in Minnesota. And there's a couple seasons that he had with him. I think it was 2. But the most noteworthy, I guess you can say, would be that he was really durable for the Jets played 16 games. He had 51 receptions and about 450 yards in 2023 season, 61 catches, which was a personal high for him, or the yards were at 621 yards. And he's going to be kind of that like safety valve for whatever quarterback comes in here. And he's got a great playing style. I mean, he's got reliable hands. I think he had 0 drops last year. Route running ability is good, but again, he's just going to find a soft spot in the zone and be open for the quarterback. Dependable in the passing game. He's got a background as a basketball player, which is neat. And we just had Akins through here as well. And we know that Antonio Gates had that background as well. And it seems something that NFL scouts are looking for. So does he exhibit those traits that I was so keen on? The toughness, the leadership, the versatility, the decision-making. Well, he's tough. He's gritty. He can play tight end. He can play fullback. He's got a fight for extra yards attitude. Like he's going to get in that soft zone and knock some guys over. He's durable. He's been in nearly every game the last 2 seasons. He avoided major injury and he's super reliable. Blocking ability. He's a tight end. He contributes much like Njoku does. He's had some tough assignments against some guys in the AFC East and he's come ahead. Leadership. He's a respected veteran in the locker room. Multiple years, obviously, in the league. That's just going to have leadership on its own merit. The work, he's got a great work ethic. He's built a reputation as a hard worker, team first guy, which we need in the locker room. And he makes an example in practices. Versatility. So balanced skill set. He can line up in those multiple roles that I said. Traditional tight end, of course, but he can flank out in the slot, H-back, which is kind of a fullback position. So he's a receiving threat that can hold his own as a blocker. Third down and red zone target. He usually gets about 4 or 5 touchdowns a year. So you can write that in right now. And he's a safety valve for the Jets, for any team that signs him, because he has that 8.8 yard average. So he's going to be there, knock a couple guys over, and you're going to get that much closer to getting a first down. Decision making, he's got smart route running ability, ball security, doesn't fumble a lot, doesn't drop a lot of balls, and he's got situational awareness, which is part of that decision making that we really want. So would he be a good fit? What do you think? Absolutely. He's tough. He's versatile. He's everything that the Browns want, and he's going to be a super good price. I think he's going to be a great asset to the locker room.
I know when you kind of started this off, you said, excuse me, I got a little. You guys know I'm sick, so I'm fighting it off here. But you mentioned mid-tier tight end, but Tyler Conklin is like low-key pretty damn good tight end. I like Tyler Conklin a lot because, like you said, tough, gritty. The dude just makes plays. I mean, the thing with Tyler Conklin, he's not your flashy tight end. He doesn't have the speed. He's not kicking your butt down the seam or anything like that. He's not making acrobatic catches and doing all the David Njoku stuff. But he is so reliable. And, that is just something we need, again, for a rookie quarterback. I mean, having that safety valve, like you said, the guy with the versatility, I would love to get Tyler Conklin on the team.
He's a lot like Austin Hooper was for the Browns in 2020. Like Njoku was the guy running down the field, and Hooper was the guy just finding the seams, finding the being the safety valve so Baker could dump off to him. And, he's the 83rd spot in PFF. So he's the lower tier of the top 100. But, I mean, he brings good value, and he'd be an excellent signing. Again,
I mentioned this last week. Andrew Berry has only ever drafted one tight end, and it was Harrison Bryant in the 3rd or 4th round that year. I know that's a deep tight end class, but we're going to need veteran help at the tight end position, because if we do take a tight end, I'd be shocked if they take him high. I do, because I just don't think they put a lot of positional value at the tight end spot. And, maybe they do, maybe they prove me wrong, but just track record shows they're not going to go heavy at tight end or, high capital investment at tight end in the draft. So a guy like Conklin would be key to get no matter what we do.
Yeah, it's a great marriage. I mean, ultimately, he's a guy that spent his first 2 seasons with Stefanski. He knows what Stefanski wants. Plug him in right away, and he'd be a great match with the way that Njoku plays.
Absolutely. So I'm going to kick it over to my second guy now, And all of you Ohio State Buckeye homers out there, like me, are going to love this pick. And I'm not picking it just because he's a Buckeye, because, it's kind of been a rough go for this guy. But I do think that what he has to add to a defensive line is still pretty good when he's available, and that is Chase Young. So Chase Young, still super, super young, only 25 years old. I feel like he's been in the league for a long time, which I guess he has, 2020, but only 25, 6'5", 265 pounds. If you guys remember, he was the second overall pick by the Redskins in 2020. Like I said, out of Ohio State, touted as a can't miss elite level edge rushing prospect, all that stuff. Just something to keep in mind for everybody who claims that there's no way Abdul Carter, won't be a Hall of Famer. Things happen. People get injured, by the way. Abdul Carter's already injured. Anyway, so Chase Young was the defensive rookie of the year in 2020, had a great rookie season, played 15 games, 44 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles with a touchdown scored. He was a beast, and that was his best season. So I put in here actually this past season in 24 with the Saints was his best season since then. He played all 17 games, 31 tackles, 5.5 sacks, and both were his second highest mark since 2020. What happened to him is he tore his ACL in week 10 of his sophomore season in 21 and did not return until the end of 2022, week 16. So he missed, a full season and a half. And after missing the majority of those 2 seasons in 2023, the Commanders, I think they were the Commanders then, right? Traded him to the 49ers. And between the Commanders and the 49ers in 2023, he had his best season since that rookie year. He played 16 games, 25 tackles, 7.5 sacks. And then last year in 2024, signed a 1-year deal for $8.6 million with the Saints. Again, decent season, 31 tackles, 5.5 sacks. And I'm looking at Chase Young the way the Browns looked at Devin Bush last year. He's a still young defender with good skills, and their career started off with a bang, but then got derailed by injuries, and they've kind of been working their way back. Similar to the Saints, I would expect sign him to a 1-year deal, maybe stick around that $8-9 million mark. I wouldn't even hate a 2-year deal if that would help get him to the Browns. Like I said, I obviously have some Ohio State homerism in this pick, but I really do like what he could provide to the defense on that line opposite Myles Garrett, rotating around the edge with Obo and Isaiah McGuire. I think that he would be a great addition. I feel like the move paid off last year to bring Devin Bush in. I thought he had a nice season for the Browns. Yep. Got him on a good deal for the team. He earned himself more money in the future, and I would take that same approach with Chase Young.
Yeah, I like him, and I think when Chase Young was coming out of anybody compared to Myles Garrett, I thought he was the comparison.
He was the dude. And he was that guy.
You can't teach his physical traits, and there are guys that get injured for whatever reason, don't respond as well, but maybe it's his time, like Delvin Bush, you said, and maybe it's his time to get with the Browns and have a great season and maybe make some more money for himself.
Absolutely. All right, man, why don't you finish up here with your final free agent pick for the Browns?
Yeah, my final, I did have to go defense on one. I did play defense in high school, so I wasn't going to go all offense based on like how bad the offense was this last year. So obviously, we know we released Juan Thornhill, and really we're not saving much money. We're going to have to save $3.4 million against the cap. But who is tired of that guy? I mean, right here, we got two guys right here. Good old Jog Thornhill. He's second contract guy, no show. Why we're doing this. So I don't feel like he was an elite athlete overall, though. I think we kind of jammed him into that Schwartz style defense. He's more into zone style, so the cover 2, cover 4, that kind of thing. I don't even know. Would you say he was aggressive enough?
No.
He didn't seem
like he had any want to or give a damn whatsoever. No. It was it was a real disappointment for me for a free agent signing, but I got the guy. He's going to be my big splash guy. We're going to have to throw some money at this guy. He's the number 3 pick overall in PFF. That'd be Javon Holland. Again, he's another guy. I didn't realize he was born in Canada. He was born in British Columbia, played at Cal. He's 6'1". He's 210 pounds, with just formerly of the Dolphins. He's got elite range for deep coverage, and that's what we need. We don't need 2 box guys because we already have Delpit, right? I think he'd fit. He's like I said, he's a dynamic playmaker, physically aligns with what Schwartz needs. Schwartz is a guy that prioritizes
aggressiveness, instinct, and he can cover deep, run support, contribute in blitz packages. I think he's got 4 in his career. Juan Thornhill was none of that. So Javon Holland, elite range in deep coverage. He thrives in single high safety, covering sideline to sideline. So cover 1 and cover 3 looks. Excellent ball skills. He's got 5 interceptions, 15 pass deflections in 3 seasons. He has coverage skills as well. He's very fast. Like it's huge for us for tight ends in the AFC North to cover up the slot receivers one-on-one. Juan Thornhill, not so much. Run support, again, he, with the Dolphins, missed very few tackles. We've missed a ton over last year. Like if you just think about that Saints game, what an embarrassment, right? He just comes downhill to thump guys. Recorded 77 plus tackles in each of his first 3 seasons. He's can be a box safety, but that's not what we want him for. And we want him for that coverage. He does have that ability. Like I said, he's got a couple sacks. Schwartz likes to blitz guys once in a while. He can get after it. No, here it is. 4 sacks. You can use him in some exotic blitz packages if you want. Forces fumbles, quick to attack the quarterback. When he does get blitzed, he's an instinctive playmaker. So the only thing that I would say that he lacks on a little bit, just because he hasn't been in the league for a while, he's still young, he's 25. Leadership skills may not be there yet, but it doesn't matter. We got some leaders on the defense. So let's get a guy that can get back, cover, help out. Jim Schwartz was his defense. And I think overall, this guy's going to be a great fit. He's just better due to his elite range, aggressive run support, blitzing ability, and he's going to fit in Schwartz's attack first defense mentality. He's also reliable enough to be a game changer, and his experience makes him super valuable. So long term, I think this guy can really work out for the Browns because he's just the best option at safety for what we need on the Cleveland Browns, and that's depth and covering tight ends and slot receivers.
Yeah, so I'm just looking up here. I like Javon Holland a lot. So Spotrac has him projected at a 4-year, $60 million contract, puts him at $15 million a year average. So you're right. We're going to have to spend on him. And I'm curious. I wonder how Browns fans, and if you guys are watching, you got an opinion, please put it in the comments so we can respond to you guys. But how would Browns fans respond to Andrew Berry signing another high-priced, veteran safety after John Johnson III, after Jog Thornhill, and then Javon Holland, the third J? I don't know. So yeah, I hate to put that, that bad juju onto somebody else. Holland had nothing to do with the other two sucking, but I can see the comments now.
If we're going to keep swinging at quarterbacks, swing at the positions that don't work. You got to hit sometime.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
You do.
And the difference between those two guys, though, like if you heard what I kind of said, Juan Thornhill and JJ, they both kind of played out a position. True. This is actually what Schwartz wants. It's a fast guy that can cover long and sideline to sideline and get, really thwart those tight ends, those slot guys that have been killing us, right?
Yeah.
So again, like that's why you keep swinging, but who knows? Like maybe 15's too rich for our blood. But believe me, I thought about that. I thought long and hard about making that choice, but like I said, we got to do something about the safety room because it's pretty bare as well.
Yeah, it opened up big time because we knew that even if Juan Thornhill was on the team, he wasn't going to contribute much. So they've moved on from him. Admitted that was a mistake, cut him, and I still like Ronnie Hickman, but you're right. Rodney McLeod retired, and it's Delpit Hickman. I think DeAnthony Bell is
he's a free agent.
Is he a restricted free agent? Like we can we tender him? I think we can because he was an undrafted free agent. So. Yeah, we're going to need. We got to address it in the draft. I said this last week. Barry's only drafted 2 safeties in his 5 years so far. It was Grant Delpit and Richard LeCount. So we might need to swing at that position yet again because it's bare.
Yeah, I almost swung again because we lost Rodney. He retired, and I was like, "What's a vet that we could take of?" And it'd be Harrison from Harrison Smith, I believe. the safety from Minnesota. He's had time with Stefanski. He could be that steady vet. That was another one, but I went for the kid in his prime, Holland.
Yeah, you went for the home run pick, which, I mean, like you said, it might be too rich for the Browns free agent moves this season, but maybe they, again, everything that I've been hearing and reading about, just rumors. I mean, maybe they come out and say, hey, we're going to make one big splash and it's going to be at the safety position. You just never know what they're going to do. So another guy to definitely keep an eye on, and a position to definitely keep an eye on. Hey, Browns fans, we're excited to tell you guys about the new season of Living for We, the award-winning podcast from Idea Stream Public Media as part of the Connecting the Dots Between Race and Health initiative. This awesome podcast is hosted by Marlene Harris Taylor. Season 1 focused on livability for Black women in Cleveland, but Season 2 explores the most pressing mental health epidemic facing the greater Cleveland area, and that is gun violence. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people in these neighborhoods, and every bullet fired creates 2 victims, the person in front of the gun and the person pulling the trigger. So join host Marlene Harris Taylor, joined by her new co-host, Maisha Watkins, director of the Cleveland Peacemakers Alliance, as they highlight the untold stories and spotlight local heroes who are already in the trenches working for change. This season provides real talk and real solutions from both the victims of gun violence and the perpetrators with a story to tell. New episodes are released every other Tuesday starting February 11th. Subscribe now to Living for We on your favorite podcast app or watch the video version on IdeaStream's YouTube channel. Learn more at ideastream.com/podcast/living-for-we. All right, so I'm going to finish things out here with, it's kind of a 3-for-1. I've got like my main guy that I'm going to talk about here, but then I've got a couple alternates in case this doesn't work out, and I'll talk about why it might not. But it's another position where things are looking a little dicey for the Browns, and that's the wide receiver position. You've got Jerry Jeudy, who had a great season. I want to take nothing away from him. Finished 6th overall in yards in the NFL. Awesome year. And what we're looking at right now is a 5th-year breakout first-round wide receiver who's now done it once.
Mm-hmm.
And before I crown him as this is an elite number 1 wide receiver, I'm going to need to see it repeated. That's what I need. I remember the Devontae Parker, 5th-year breakout for Miami. And then after that, it was kind of like, okay, he kind of went back to what he was. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen with Jeudy, but I need to see it. Cedric Tillman, I love the talent. The dude's had 2 good games in 2 seasons now. I don't know what I have. I really don't know what we've got in Cedric Tillman. I mean, he missed 7 games with a concussion. It's just not good. It's not a good situation. Then after that, you're looking at David Bell, Jamar Thrash, Michael Woods, who I think is or is he a free agent? I don't know. Either way, we don't have a whole lot of depth. So we're going to need to address it a little bit in free agency. And I hope to God they draft 2 of these guys and 1 guy a little high. And I'm going to do an episode later on here about some of these rookie receivers, because there's some guys I'm really excited about. But for this episode, I want to talk about Darius Slayton, formerly with the New York Giants, 6'1", 190 pounds. He's 28 years old, 5th-round pick by the Giants back in 2019. Now, Slayton is a big play, deep threat type of wide receiver, lots of speed, and just a good outside presence. Could be that outside, take the top off the defense guy that we want to have out there alongside Jeudy and Tillman. The quarterback play in New York, and here I am a Browns fan talking about bad quarterback play, but it hasn't been great in New York. And his numbers aren't crazy over his career, but he has still led the team in receiving yards in 4 of his 5 seasons there. Spotrac has a market value at 3-year deal worth $15.8 million annually. So now if that's the case, I'm probably out on Slayton, because he just signed a 2-year extension with the Giants for $6 million per year before this. He's never had more than 50 catches in a season. 770 yards is his career high. He had 8 touchdowns as a rookie, but he has not eclipsed 4 in a year since then. The $15.8 million mark would put him just below Jerry Jeudy in terms of wide receivers, average annual salary. So for that value, like I said, probably out. Don't think the Browns would spend that much on a free agent wide receiver anyway. And while that number might sound crazy to some of you guys, we see these free agent wide receivers get way too much money every year because, like I said at the top of the show, the talent just isn't there. So teams that are desperate for wide receiver and they can't get a good one in the draft or whatever reason, they'll go out and they'll spend, like the Jaguars did last year, on Gabe Davis. Way too much money for Gabe Davis, but he was the cream of the crop for the wide receiver position last year in free agency. So that's what happens. So if Darius Slayton is unaffordable because, he's being offered way too much from other teams, then I'm going to move way down the market value chart and I'm going to look at two other guys. I'm going to look at, the first one is KJ Osborne. So KJ Osborne was an awesome wide receiver 3 when he was with the Vikings. Again, another Kevin connection, 655 yards his second season, followed by 650 and then 540 yards, 15 total touchdowns over that 3-year span, those are great numbers for a guy who's playing behind Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and then Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson. Like there were mouths to feed, plus the running backs, Dalvin Cook. I mean, it was a great offense, and he made his name known in that offense. So Spotrac projects a 1-year deal for just $2.4 million for a guy like KJ Osborne. I love the idea of bringing him in at that price. Last year, he signed as a free agent with the New England Patriots for $4 million. Production last year, hardly anything to speak of. The Patriots offense was terrible last year, and he only has 7 catches for 57 yards and a touchdown on the season. So I think you could get him for the cheap, but he's shown in the past in Minnesota that he can be a pretty effective complementary piece at the wide receiver position. And then the third guy in this little 3-for-1 that I'm doing is a guy you guys were all familiar with, and it's Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore projected at around a $4.5 million contract. Our quarterback play in Cleveland has not been the best to speak of. And when we actually did have competent guys like Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston throwing the ball, Elijah Moore showed what he can do on the field. And I'd be happy to have him back in Cleveland in 2025. He had 640 yards and then 538 in his 2 seasons in Cleveland. Those were the 2 highest yardage seasons in his 4-year career. Not bad considering that the other, Amari Cooper, Njoku, Judy, these other guys on the team, plus the quarterback play was atrocious. He scored just 3 touchdowns during the 2 years in Cleveland. He had 6 in his 2 seasons before that with the Jets. Granted, 5 of those came in his rookie season. But he did have over 100 targets both seasons in Cleveland. And I think he's a tough player, and I think at that price point, I would like to have Elijah Moore back on the team.
Yeah, I agree. I don't dislike Elijah Moore. I don't think he's been utilized properly.
No.
I don't think Ken Dorsey's offense really did any good for him. I never understood why that guy, I believe he was a special teams player and returned kicks and punts. I don't know why he doesn't do that for the Browns. When they maximize that potential of his talent, but I'd be totally into signing him. He doesn't seem to drop anything.
No, he's very sure-handed. We talked about that when we traded for him. His true catch percentage or something like that, over expected, basically. I mean, he's getting crap targets thrown at him from Zach Wilson and whoever else in New York, and it was like 90-some%. I mean, he was catching well over the number of passes that he was expected to be catching. And the thing with Elijah Moore, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember talking about this on an episode last year, in 2023, the first part of the season, the Browns were playing him in the slot pretty much exclusively, if you go look at the snap percentages. And that's not where he thrives. I know he's a smaller receiver, and you would think smaller, these quick guys, that's probably a good position for them in the slot, but he's actually better on the outside. And the second half of the season, I forget what the situation was. We traded Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's what it was. So Tillman was still kind of coming along. So they were moving Elijah Moore. His snap percentages outside, actually, it flipped. He went primarily from the slot to primarily on the outside. And that's where his production went up in the second half of 2023, because he is an outside receiver. And you talked multiple times in this episode, playing guys out of position. This guy fits this scheme. This guy fits this. You got to play guys where they're best. I mean, yes, some guys are very adaptable and versatile and can, switch positions and excel, but some guys are just really good at a specific thing. And when you try to put them out of that, you're losing everything you could get out of them.
Yeah, he seems to have the talent, and nobody seems to know how to tap into that for some reason.
I know, it's crazy, but I like him. And either way, we got to add wide receivers badly. So these are some of the ones that I was looking through and thinking, okay, I would like to see at least one of these guys on the team.
Yeah, I'm surprised KJ Osborne hasn't been part of the Browns yet, just based on the connections with Stefanski. I've always seen his name kind of pop up when he's been available, or even a possible throw a 7th or a 6th round out just to get this guy wherever he's signed. And it's never materialized for whatever reason.
Yeah, this could be the year though, because last year we were going in the season thinking, okay, the receiver room was pretty filled out. There wasn't a whole lot of extra space, because you still had high hopes for, David Bell or I guess some hopes for David Bell. I shouldn't say high. And there was Amari Cooper, Judy, Tillman, all these guys. So they weren't doing a whole lot in free agency, but this year they're going to have to.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get it. I do got one question for you. I got like a surprise free agent that's available, or it was a surprise to me.
Okay.
Fullback. Number one, do you think we're going to get back into the 2020 season where we actually had a fullback? Number two, guess who's available? And he played for the Ravens, and he's a big freaking dude.
So let me flip it on you. Why don't you tell me first who's available? What's the name?
So it's Patrick Ricard.
Oh,
big 300-pound,
okay.
Fullback. He is a free agent this year, and I don't think this is going to happen because his contract's going to be like $13 million based on what he does for teams to run the ball, and for us to be $60 million in the blue, I just don't see us giving him 1/6 of that availability, to be honest with you. That being said, I mean, he is like the epitome of what a fullback does, right? He has all the traits. He's got the strength, he's got the quickness, balance, hand-eye coordination, football IQ, and stamina. And it's very interesting that he came from a defensive line and they kind of converted him over. But what I'm getting at is the Browns actually signed a guy from the Houston Texans, and he is a defensive lineman. And maybe that's something that we do. His name's Troy Harrison. He's on the future reserves. And that guy, he seems to have the same attributes. I mean, the guy's not as big. He was a defensive end instead of a defensive tackle. So you're looking at a guy that's, I just lost my spot. But he was about 250 pounds. And I find that's like a good position because we had Nick Harris do it. And I don't think you can convert him to a fullback. He's a pass block guy that doesn't have the straight hitting that you need for a fullback. And then the other guy that did it was Winston Reed, but he's a little undersized at 225. But man, that guy's a thumper, right? But with the defensive background, I guess what it is there's an aggressiveness to the playing style when you're on the defensive line that also suits the fullback position. It's the term we heard from the guy that we drafted out of Ohio State is the violent hands. So pushing guys on their butt, basically, to get to the quarterback versus pushing them on their butt so the running back can get behind you. He's got the strength. He's got the athleticism. I mean, this guy ran a 4.7, and that's pretty good for a fullback. He also bench pressed 225. Guess how many times? 30.
Wow.
That's a strong dude, man. I've done 10 in my life, and that's good. You know what I mean? And he's has the ability to transition because he did it with Houston. He just needs more reps. So, here I found it. He's 5'11" and he's 250.
Wow,
that's
that
pretty
is a
compact.
stout dude.
That's compact. Yeah. So just to get to the point of playing defensive end to fullback, I mean, he's got the determination to do it. So let's see what they can get out of this guy. But no, we're not going to sign him because we've already signed this guy. But that was kind of my little caveat or whatever. But does he stay at fullback? Is he going to be that termed H-back? Are they going to have him as a tight end, but literally classify him as a fullback?
Yeah.
It's yet to be seen, right?
Yeah.
And it's yet to be seen if he works. He's a future reserve guy. So
right. As far as the run game goes, the offense this year, I don't really know what to expect. I mean, I know they've said it's not going to be a full go back to Kevin Stefanski. It's going to be, still a modernization with Tommy Reese and these other guys there, working on this offensive system. It's just hard for me to really see the Browns utilizing like a 12 personnel or, a fullback, doing these heavy running formations and things like that when we don't really have the guys to do it yet. And maybe we will. Maybe we'll sign them. Maybe it'll happen. But if they do decide to use the fullback position in some sets and things like that, I would imagine it's more of a creative usage, kind of like you said with the way they try to use Nick Harris and some of these other guys. Maybe bring a guy from the practice squad who can run that, if they do it 5-6 times a game or whatever it is. So that would be my guess.
I mean, it's a great way to combat the too high safety bubble zone. I mean, you're establishing, your dominance on a light box. You can manipulate the linebackers, and if you have a fullback in, then you look like you're going to run. That's all that is. And you can exploit zones. So it's like what Ty Conklin does.
Yeah.
Just get your fullback out and be that safety valve if you can catch, and this guy can.
That's where a guy like Tyler Conklin would be perfect to have. He'd be such a great signing.
I know. Sign him.
I hope so. We'll see what happens. Like I said, free agency opens up. I guess legal tampering starts, which that whole thing is crazy to me, but still. That's March 10th. Actual free agency opens up March 12th. That's whenever we'll be finding out who's getting signed and where they're going and what the Browns are doing. Are we going to be active right away, or is it going to be a day or two until we start to see some guys get signed by Cleveland? Are we going to be in the mix for any of the top guys? We'll see. But let us know what you guys think in the comments of the guys that we picked for the Browns in free agency this year. And if you've got names that you guys like and we didn't mention, drop them in there. We'd love to talk about them in the future. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Kenny, thank you for jumping on and doing this with me. We do this, try to do this episode every year, and it's a ton of fun. I love doing it.
Yeah, me too, man. I couldn't wait to get my guys out. I wish we had more cap room, but is what it is.
It is what it is. And the Browns are going to field a team somehow, some way. And I went through, of course, how they're going to get back under the cap and all that stuff, but it's not going to be a massive amount. So we are going to have to be a little more conservative with our spending in free agency, but we do have 11 draft picks to complement all that. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it. Kenny, stay warm up there. And until we talk to you guys on the next one, let's go Brownies.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.
This episode is brought to you by Baden Sports. Browns fans, Baden Sports is your one-stop shop for all your athletic gear. Baden started out perfecting and manufacturing the best balls in the business. Yeah, if that sounded dirty, that's more about your mind than my words. But hey, it's true. Baseballs, softballs, footballs, basketballs, volleyballs, soccer balls, you name it, and Baden has engineered the highest standard sports balls available. And now they offer more than just sports balls. If you got kids playing baseball or softball, Baden has batting gloves and bats to go along with both game balls and training balls. If you're into basketball, Baden makes basketball specifically for indoor or outdoor use. Heck, Baden even has all the equipment you need for pickleball, which is one sport that I hear everyone is playing, and yet I still never have. And I need to fix that soon. But don't miss the backyard game section of Baden's website, where you can order everything you need for this upcoming outdoor season. Pool balls, backyard volleyball nets, croquet, bocce, horseshoes, cornhole, and more. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order at Baden Sports, BADEN sports.com/dogs, DAWGS, and use promo code DOGS when you check out. That's 10% off all the top quality sporting gear you need this season. BadenSports.com/dogs.
Your old or broken phone can let you down when you need it most.
Perfect.
But at Verizon, trade in any old phone from our top brands and get the most for it, up to $2,000 in value, for an amazing new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence and a new line on My Plan, and iPad and Apple Watch Series 10. That's like a 3-for-1. And you can get it on any plan. At Verizon, trade in your old phone for a brand new iPhone 16 Pro, iPad, and Apple Watch. The other guys won't give you that. Visit Verizon.com today. Additional terms apply. Service plan required for Apple Watch and iPad. Up to $2,000 value based on iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch.